Drivers, start your engines!
Hit the pace car! What for? Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. It's him, but he talks to me.
Well, I wanna be a race car driver, pretty girls eating from my hand, yeah. Wanna live a life of fun and danger, no sweating working for the man, alright.
Hey, race fans, welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network and welcome to the Drafting the Circus program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your guest for the next hour as we preview Memorial Day weekend and go over all the races from last week. So joining me in the studio, Richard Youden. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? It's all good, man. It's all good.
All good, all good. Yeah, we may have Luis join us a little later. He's traveling back from Texas, probably still unpacking his bags, but hopefully we'll get him in here, get his report from the Texas All-Star race. But so we did have the All-Star race in Texas. Indianapolis had the qualifying, set the grid for the 500, and the very boring race that we predicted for Spain turned out to be actually a pretty good watch, and we'll get into that in a minute. But let's start out with Indianapolis. We've got a pretty clean month all around. We saw the only guy that really had an incident with the wall with any like significant, kind of impact was Dalton Kellett, and that was on the Monday after qualifying. We did see a couple guys at minor contact. Jimmy Johnson earlier in practice. Jimmy Johnson had a moment on his first qualifying lap that knocked him out of getting into the fast six. But overall,
Takuma Sato had a bit of a clip of the wall as well, didn't they?
Yeah, just a little brush, yeah. And then Takuma Sato, of course, made the mistake of not going onto the warm-up lane after his lap, which impeded Marco Andretti's lap, which ended up having him get his time disqualified. He had to go back out. So, which that's just odd for a guy like Takuma, whose experience has been around, to not realize that he's supposed to get into that. I don't know if he had missed his lap count or what, but poor Marco, former pole sitter here, is mired in the back. Takuma sneaks into the top 12, but doesn't make the top 6. Just didn't have quite the speed there of the Ganassi cars.
Solid starting position, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, solid position for him. Yeah. But Chip Ganassi got all 5 of their cars into the fast 12, which was quite an impressive feat. They've got 2 of their cars starting first and second, with Scott Dixon turning his qualifying lap at an average that's over 234 miles per hour, which is the fastest pole run ever in Indianapolis history. It's not the fastest qualifying run because that would belong to Arie Luyendyk, who qualified at a little over 236 miles an hour. But because that wasn't set on pole day back to the rules at that time, he started 20th. But an impressive run for Dixon. He was, I myself got called out on social media because somebody had before. I said, hey, do you think we'll see anybody get a 234 run? And my answer was, I think we'll probably see a couple of guys hit 234 on the first lap, maybe the second, but nobody's going to get a 234 average over the 4 laps. Well, see, that's what I get so the one guy did, and that was Scott Dixon, his 5th pole. Again, he's within 75 laps of becoming the all-time leader at the Speedway. He enters the 500 as a solid favorite, as does his teammate, Alex Palou, who performed fantastically at this race last year, finished second, but only because he was outfoxed by that old man who was winning his 4th. So what were your impressions of the qualifying in the field? There's some really interesting fast cars starting deep in the field.
Yeah, we sort of touched on it, didn't we, in our little sort of offline group chat. Is it like row 12 or row 13? It's absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Penske's and Elio's back down there, I think, isn't it? I can't remember the exact lineup, but
was it Herta, Newgarden, and Elio back there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It'd be interesting if those guys sort of, almost. And there's another couple of other really guys you expect to be pretty fast in there. You'd almost wonder if they don't all sort of get together and say, let's work together, as a pack and try and move through the field, as a pack, and then for the first 150 laps, and then let it all hang out on the last 50 and see what happens. But I think they have to work together a little bit to get there. I'm sure. But yeah, it was fascinating. And one thing I do want to comment on was we touched on it there earlier. I think it was Dalton Kellett's accident that he had. I think it was turn one, just trying to go around the outside of Roman Grosjean, I think, and just didn't have the space and just back end stepped out and hit the wall pretty hard. And I think the IndyCar released some information on that accident, and it was the car suffered an impact of over 100 G deceleration, whereas on the biometric sensors that the drivers wear actually in their ears, the driver only suffered a deceleration of 30 G at his head, which is still a pretty big impact, which he'll be sore for a good few days after that. But it's a massive reduction in energy compared between a 100 G impact and a 30 G impact. So, I think that we have to praise IndyCar and the work they've done to improve the safety of these cars. But it was, testament to what they do, and good to see him walk away, although probably a little gingerly. And a bit of a mess of a car, but that can be fixed a lot easier than drivers can. So, but no, outside of that,
the interesting thing to your point about the the reduction in the G-forces, between the hit the car took and the driver took, is everybody seems so intent on retiring the DW12 tub. You know what I mean? But it has proven to be a miraculously safe car, and it was designed with the safety in mind. And, we thankfully have not had anybody with really horrible injuries, due to that car.
No.
I mean, there was the Wilson incident, but he was getting struck by the nose cone off another car. But since then, I mean, if you watch Kellett's crash, back, if you watch a crash from the 80s or 90s, there's parts scattered all over the track, right?
Yeah.
Very little debris coming off of Kellett's car there. It's just the way the cars are constructed, and certain, those other, the tires are tethered on, the noses are tethered on. It's just really a good, solid, safe car, capable of running these speeds. So, I'd like to see some design tweaks here or there, but the DW12 itself, I mean, it's really, it was designed with safety in mind, and, and it's everyone's on the same level playing field because it's a spec chassis, so we can have the safety mount. We don't have to shave any corners in the interest of being faster than the other guys.
Exactly.
So, just I mean, really interesting data from IndyCar on the Kellett crash.
Yeah, and good to see. And as you say, they're obviously, the rushing to change it and update it, which I think is a little bit premature, maybe, because I think still produces some damn good racing, and so I would be, careful what you wish for there when they look at changing the chassis there. But yeah, I mean, obviously over time these things do get knocked around and banged, and I'm sure, be surprised if Dalton Kellett's tub could run again. And that was a pretty big impact. The actual main monocoque chassis was probably on the scrap heap as we speak. But I what do you gain from changing that tub there? I really don't know.
No, me either. Yeah. So otherwise, if people want to see something where the windscreen is a little more integrated into the chassis design. Yeah. So, but
I think they've been talking about that, haven't they? I think there is a little bit more going on there.
Yeah. I mean, they were talking like 2024 or 2023, but I think they're pushing it back again. I think they're going to make the next, chassis match the next set of engine rules.
And you may need that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You obviously your engine and chassis are pretty integral to each other. So it may be that the current chassis at the moment couldn't handle a hybrid engine or whatever they're looking at. And in the same way that the current next gen NASCAR chassis can accept a hybrid engine. So, whereas the Gen 6 couldn't, or easily anyway. So yeah, they've obviously got to future-proof these things, and yeah, 2025 I think would be a sound. The chassis then would be what, 13 years old. So yeah, it's probably some of the manufacturing processes and safety initiatives and designs would probably be improved by then. So I think that's a good window of opportunity to do that. But I don't think it's purely a performance-based situation.
Yeah. So let's talk about the engines then. Okay. A lot of folks are saying, wow, Honda really has this under control. But if you look a little deeper at it, the numbers are skewed a little bit because honestly, the people who have got it best, right, are Chip Ganassi Racing and Ed Carpenter Racing, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking 5 Honda engines versus 3 Chevys, right?
Yeah.
But I think that, VK is every bit as fast as any of the Ganassi cars. And he's, proven to be quite fast through all the practices and whatnot. And, he's these all 3 of these guys in the front row are Dixon's 234.0, 233.5 for Palou and 233.38 for VK. And then Carpenter's right next, 233, 08. And then a little drop down to Ericsson and Kanan. So yep. And then the next row behind them, then you've got the 2 McLarens, which are 2 more Chevy engines. So I don't buy the fact that Honda's got it right this year. I buy the fact that Ganassi's got it right this year. Penske's faltered somewhat. That doesn't mean they won't be strong in the race because especially with their driver lineup, you can't count those guys out. Andretti faltered in qualifying. I think Grosjean was the only guy to get into the top 12. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But I really feel like the Chevy and Honda are pretty equally matched. I don't think one has an advantage over the other. I think it's more of just the team setups and whatnot. Yeah,
I think that the biggest thing you're going to see over the course of the week, and so one of the things you got to remember is the cars are very, very different between qualifying and the race, especially when it comes to aero spec and also gear ratio setting, because in the if you run like they're doing qualifying with no other cars around, they'll never hit the rev limiter during qualifying. You will during the race because you're in the draft and you're being dragged along. So your the gear ratios and engine mappings and all these sort of stuff are very, very different between the race and qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see is that a consistent variable, if that makes sense, between the 2 manufacturers there? Do are they both non-optimized by the same amount as you would be compared to race weekend? So I think qualifying is very, very early to make that call, considering the differences between the 2 disciplines, basically.
Yeah, and then again, you don't know how these guys have set up their cars either. You know what I mean? Because it is a long race, right? And in some sense, you'd be better off to work on your race setup as long as you get a decent starting spot.
Yeah,
not worried about setting a record or setting on the front row, although it's nice to sit on the front row. But if you have a good solid race day setup in a car that's balanced and handles well in traffic, that's going to benefit you more over the 500 miles than the guy that can go fastest for 4 laps out there by himself. But yeah, I got to say, as I look at this thing, right, Dixon is way overdue for that second Indy 500 win.
Yep.
And we've seen him come so close so many times and have, something go wrong. Maybe he had a shot at Takuma in 2020. If there hadn't been that last caution, he's the guy's led so many laps there. So I really think Dixon's got to be the solid favorite. But if I wanted to like take a dark horse, or I don't even know if I want to call him a dark horse, but this is one of Kanan's best shots to get his second Indy win too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you recall, when he did get his first Indy win, he was not with one of the top teams. He was, with Jimmy Vasser, which is one of the smaller teams there, and he was able to pull that off. But now he's in solid Ganassi equipment. Ganassi looks to be the class of the field. He's right up there near the front. He's a crafty guy, led a lot of laps there. And again, the 500 is the kind of race that rewards experience, you know?
Of course, yeah.
But at the same time, you know, Palou, you know, the dude is just, he drives like a veteran, you know, despite being a youngster. So who do you like? I mean, who are you going to be keeping your eyes on?
I think somebody I think they had a pretty good qualifying performance. I can't remember his exact position, but I think Alexander Rossi's in a pretty good starting spot, isn't he? I may be wrong. Where does he start the race this weekend?
Rossi's starting 20th.
Okay, so maybe not as good a starting position as I thought. I'm trying to think who. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine him having a pretty strong weekend. But again, as you say, you've got to look at one of the more sort of established guys, haven't you? This is an endurance race. This is a race of skill and guile, and you've got to be there at the end. I mean, would you count out, maybe something like Will Power coming from that mid pack, to get a good result? Who else? I
would not count out Will Power. No.
No.
As a matter of fact, he's not that. He's starting 11th. He's not mired too awful far back. No. But some of the guys that I would watch out for that are kind of far back would be like a Graham Rahal, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, was it last year when he was having a really strong run and then he had that incident exiting pit road?
That is correct.
Had the tire bounce on him there. There's Louise.
Yep. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, man. I'm sorry about that, guys. But anyway, Graham Rahal had a peculiar race day, and I'm judging by the fact that we're talking about Indy, right?
Yep.
No, I was actually talking about Bathurst 1000. No, we're talking about
McLaughlin's not running. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's not running. That's why Rahal's suddenly the favorite.
Now, Rahal and Bathurst might be intriguing for the few that might care, but no, it was I'm back from Texas and all, so I'd say it's been going all right aside from a couple of hiccups along the way, but yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, good to see you. And what we'll do is we'll get into your report from the All-Star race here shortly. But what Richard and I were doing, we'll go ahead and, talk about who we want to really keep an eye on in the 500 field as the race progresses. Go ahead, Richard.
Well, I'm gonna pick him as a winner. So we'll hold off on that surprise until we get to the winner.
That is an interesting one, but there's three drivers that I know for a fact I'm going to keep an eye on. One of them is David Malukas. I feel like he's going to be a perennial dark horse to stop Jimmy Johnson from winning Rookie of the Year honors for the Indianapolis 500. He's been quietly consistent, and while Sato has been super fast, Malukas isn't awfully behind. He's a couple spots down the charts, but he's been, all things considered, doing really well, and one of the very few, I think if I recall, is one of the only, if not the only rookie that had some sort of experience prior to testing the Indianapolis, because from what I understood, he ran Road to Indy at IMS for the Freedom 100, but really didn't get an opportunity to run outright because he got taken out early on, to my knowledge, in one of those Chris Windom incidents that came to define his month of May a long time ago.
Yeah, he's lined up 13th, and again, his teammate Sato, two-time winner there. I'm sure he's getting him and Sato were probably sharing some information, and I'm sure he's going to glean everything he can learn from Sato, who has proven to be, pretty darn good around the speedway. And Sato, another guy you want to watch out for on race day.
Oh, no question. Another driver that I will probably eye on is still Simon Pagenaud. Yeah, he's not had the greatest month. Well, Meyer Shank hasn't necessarily set the world on fire this month of May compared to last year, where they were quietly quick. They were like there, but under the radar. This year, they're kind of there. They're not under the radar. They haven't really quite shown me much. But the reason why I keep an eye on Pagano is mostly for the fact that he's driving the team that won the 500 last year. And also the fact that had the race been a little bit longer, 10 laps more, I think Pagano would have easily been in the mix in that 500 win. So when you combine those two elements, Pagano is pretty sporty at Indianapolis. I say keep an eye on him, because if things fall in his favor, we might be looking for back-to-back 500s for Meyer Shank. It's a bit of a reach compared to what I felt like at the beginning of the season, where we had to make like a preseason Indy 500 pick. But I still keep an eye on that guy. And finally, I say Marcus Ericsson. Well, yes.
Ericsson. Yeah, I was gonna say anybody in a Ganassi car has got a really good shot this year.
Yeah, it's just Ericsson is the most. It's always like the one I've always been intrigued on. It's like people talk about, Jimmy Johnson, like, could he have a shot of winning the 500 as a rookie? Will this be Dixon's finally the year Dixon win it all? Can Kanaan bring the number one back to victory lane at Indy, or Alex Palou after a strong 2021 effort? Will he put himself in a position to win it in his third 500 start? Ericsson has always been like the guy like knocking on the door, guy, very under the radar, but he produces strong results. And I think each year he has been in IndyCar, he's progressively gotten better and better and better. It's hard to say that Ericsson is a dark horse, despite being in a car that you can say they're the team to beat, which they are, and that's the team to beat. And Ericsson has been strong. Just a matter of still feel like he may surprise people at the end of the day. And it's not the first time we're going to see somebody done it. I mean, Ray Hall had a strong effort at Ganassi a decade ago. Max Chilton was in the mix for a win half a decade ago. Maybe Ericsson may be a guy that could be celebrating a win, which, if I recall, puts him along and joined Kenny Brack as the only Swedes to win the 500.
All right. The other thing about Ericsson, though, as you noted, there's a lot of attention on, Kanaan, Dixon, and Johnson. It probably helps Ericsson, be less distracted. Kind of just stay under the radar, just go out and do his thing, less distractions. You know what I mean? Just go and prepare for the race. And I think Ericsson's got as good a shot as anybody. But the one guy I wanted to talk about who surprised me is Montoya. His McLaren teammates are lined up 7th and 8th, and Montoya is 30th, right? He's 228 mile an hour average. He really hasn't shown any significant speed all month. I wonder if he's just phoning it in at this point, or if the fact that the third car expansion at McLaren is he's getting leftovers.
I don't know about that, because last year he was in the third McLaren. He put it in the top 10. He found a way to put it in the top 10. And when you look at the Grand Prix before he lost it at the very end, albeit we're talking about the Grand Prix circuit compared to the Oval, he slowly and methodically worked his way to a good result. So I would not sleep on Montoya. I mean, Montoya is no stranger from working his way from the back to the front. That's how he won his most recent 500.
In 2015, he dropped all the way down to 32nd place early in the race and then won the thing.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see that, but I think phoning it in, I don't necessarily think so. I think he'll put up a respectable result, but time will tell. It's got, like, again, when it comes to Indy, everything's got to have to fall in the driver's favor at the exact time, not too little, too late, like Ed Carpenter a year ago.
And Carpenter's another guy we haven't mentioned that could, he could sneak a win in there too. He's got a lot of miles at the Speedway. He's got some poles there. He has a, very, very disappointing second place to Will Power in 18, where he ran really well all day. So, Carpenter's another guy that, and a lot of people have thinking, Ed's lost a step, particularly his other oval performances haven't been great, but my gosh, he looked really good in qualifying, and his team knows how to put together a good 500 car. So, but let's get back to you, Richard.
Yep.
And you were getting ready to tell us who you were going to pick for the winner, because I'll go on record. I'm saying Dixon.
Yep. But you actually just mentioned there Ed Carpenter.
All right,
overdue,
so
I think
Ed Carpenter's your guy, way overdue. Yeah, he would break a record for
begrudge him that one, would they?
No, oh, golly, the Indianapolis fans would go nuts.
Yep. And I do have another question after this, but anyway, carry on.
All right, well, Louise, you go ahead and make your pick for win, and then we'll get to Richard's question.
I say it's going to boil down to, if I had to pick one for Ganassi, Palou. If I say a Chevy driver, Will Power. But overall, Palou gets it.
All right, and back to you, Richard.
So I was just looking at this, and it struck me. You probably don't know this answer off the top of your head, and if I do, I'll be very impressed. What has been the the 500 with the least number of American drivers in? So I think there's only 12 out of 33 this year.
I don't know if it's if 12 would be the least.
It can't be. It's up. It must be up there.
I was going to say, yeah, and there were
12 out of 33. It's a third of them, pretty much. You know.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
During the kart era, we were a little light on American drivers.
It has to be within 93, 95, more than likely, where you're going to see that few. That's my estimate.
That'd be something to look at. I remember looking up to see when we had the most American drivers, which was post World War II.
Because I saw some of the early ones. It was.
Well, the early ones were very international. You had, French guys won the third and fourth and fifth Indy 500s, but it was, envisioned as an international race. In fact, one of the early names was the International 500. But it was really post World War II when, most of Europe was rebuilding. That we started to see fields that were 100% American drivers. And then from there, it wasn't until, really the 80s when we started to see a large influx of international drivers coming back into the sport. So, to answer your question, least amount of American drivers, I don't know. But 12 is actually a pretty good number. Yeah,
the last few years have been more than that. There's been like 13 and 15.
Let's talk about this Spanish Grand Prix then, now that we've all got our picks for Indianapolis. We predicted the race would be boring. Actually, Louise did.
Yep.
Yeah, you were off a gateway, so you weren't able to put in your. But yeah, we all kind of agreed that it might be a bit of a snoozer, but it wasn't. We saw a couple of guys run off the track, including Verstappen, who had a run through the gravel early in the race and was able to gather it up and hold on for the win. With the win, he takes the points lead. Leclerc with a mechanical DNF. So talk us through the Spanish Grand Prix a little bit.
Yeah, Barcelona is one of those tracks that it's so sort of aero critical, if you like. It often doesn't produce particularly good races, but it wasn't terrible. Highlights from the race itself was like Alonso driving from the back of the pack was very impressive. Bottas had another good race. Hamilton had a really strong race after a first lap contact with Kevin Magnussen. Gave him a puncher and dropped into the back of the pack, and he was almost ready to sort of pack it in and save the engine, but had a really, really strong drive. George Russell again with another strong drive, and I think special mention also needs to go out to Lando Norris, who completed a race, one of the hottest races of the year, despite suffering from tonsillitis, which of anybody, especially having tonsillitis as an adult, I've had that a few years ago. It's miserable. Massive credit needs to go to Lando for doing what he did. Again, the two standout drivers, both probably with one mistake each throughout the weekend, were Leclerc and Verstappen. Leclerc lost his first timed lap in Q3 by spinning at the final chicane, and then but still managed to come back and take a very, very impressive pole lap. Verstappen struggled throughout or at the end of qualifying, he couldn't get a fast run in at the end of Q3 there with a DRS issue, which plagued him on and off throughout the whole race. Not quite sure what was the issue there with his DRS, but you'd see it open some laps, closed other laps, and there's some laps it would open for a split second and then close again. And it was all a little bit clunky from Red Bull on the technical side there with that DRS issue. And he did, as you said, he sort of span wide going into turn 4 there at the top of the hill. His race engineer came over and told him that he had a gust of wind, which Barcelona, I've been there a couple of times testing, and it is a very, very exposed track, just on the outskirts of Barcelona, about 20 miles north of the city centre there, and you're at the base of some mountains, and the wind really does whip through there, and it can. It surprised me how windy it was when I was there, but I can quite easily see these freak gusts catching these guys out as it.
Sainz had a very similar incident prior to Max's.
Yeah.
Same part of the course, yeah.
Yeah, same corner. And, watching Sainz and, both Sainz and Leclerc's spin on the Saturday and Sainz on the Sunday, respectively, very, very similar. It was a very early part of the sort of corner dynamic, if you like, the turn-in phase. And very, very, very strange what happened. It wasn't like the back end stepped out and turned them round sharply. It wasn't snap oversteer or anything like that. It just like the back end just didn't want to turn, and it just sort of drifted off, which was very unusual. And maybe that's a characteristic of that Ferrari car and the way it handles. And to a certain extent, Leclerc has obviously got a better grasp on that so far this season compared to Sainz, but very unusual. And the Sainz one may have been wind as well. We don't know, but consider what we often consider one of the dullest races of the year. I thought had a little bit of everything there. Checo drove a great race, and to a certain extent was unlucky there, being asked to move over by the team to let Verstappen through. I think Verstappen would have got past anyway, but there were different tyre strategies, and part of that was forced. Obviously, Sergio Perez there does have a certain amount of angst there, understandably, because as he can quite rightly turn around to the team and say, "Well, I'm not the one that span off, so I've done everything I've been asked of, and whereas Max made a mistake, and you're asking me to give way to him, that's a little bit unfair." Which, yes, you're probably right in that assessment, but no, I don't think it was. I think Verstappen would have won anyway. George Russell had another really strong race.
I think Leclerc would have won if
yes, for sure.
Mechanically, he was
without any.
He was like 13, 14 seconds up
on
the field.
He was coasting, and by sounds of things, it was a turbo failure. I don't know if Ferrari put up an official reasoning, but you heard that whine of the turbo spin down, which was pretty. It was pretty telltale of a turbo failure, which is a great shame for them. And especially considering they had a brand new engine in there, or a latest spec engine, which Carlos Sainz wasn't running. And also, Guan Yu Zhou retired as well with a suspected engine issue, and he had the same spec engine as Charles Leclerc. So don't know. I wouldn't surprise me if they don't go back to the older spec engine for Monaco, because you don't really need the power around there. You just need to not blow up, and see where we go from there. Especially with power tracks like Baku and Silverstone on the horizon, they're probably going to want to keep those fresh engines for those events.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Now, so Monaco's up next on the calendar, and again, this is often considered to be one of the most prestigious races in Formula One, and I kind of it feels like it's lost a little bit of its luster over the years. But at the same time, it's still Monaco, and it's still, in the drivers' minds, right? It's still a very prestigious race. It still gets a lot of coverage. It still gets a lot of attention, but you almost wonder if, Formula One hasn't outgrown the circuit, because it is so tight and so unforgiving. Because there's no runoff, there's no place to go, and it's always been that way. But the cars are much larger now, You know, when you look at the little tiny Lotuses that like Graham Hill and Jim Clark were running around there, compared to these, the modern Formula One car has about the same wheelbase as a good sized soccer mom van.
Exactly.
So.
Oh no, for sure. And yeah, you're right. There is a what should we say? People have questioned Monaco for a long time with its pure entertainment fact. It's become a procession basically. But I think in the last couple of years, you've really heard the murmurings and rumors starting to come from the sports owners, which isn't great. I certainly do think that we need to stay at Monaco. I think it has a place on the calendar. I think you almost want Monaco to be a time trial race. You really do. Because you look at the onboards of these guys when they're at the top of their prowess, driving Monaco flat out, it's breathtaking. And I will stand by this. If there's one place I could stand and watch a Formula One car, it's at the exit of the first swimming pool chicane, that left-right flick, where they're sort of like sliding the car through that second apex. You just stand at that exit where that camera is, must just be breathtaking.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I think from a skill level, I think it's the ultimate test of the driver, far more so than any of the other tracks we go to. I mean, you make a mistake at Monaco, you're out the race, pure and simple. You don't, if what happened to Verstappen happened going down into Saint-Devote, you're in the tyre barrier. Leclerc would be out of qualifying. Sainz would have had an early bath sort of thing. So, it's the ultimate test, and I really do hope they keep it. Can they make changes to it to make it more suitable to a modern car? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how these modern cars do handle that because one of the key features of a ground effect car that they're running now is the ability to seal the car to the track, seal that under, the under tray of the car or the skirts of the car to the track to generate downforce underneath the car. Now, Monaco's so bumpy, and even with the drain covers and the crosswalks and the paint and all that sort of stuff you see all over the track, is it going to work? Are you going to see the car seated and sealed as well as you have in the past? It's going to be a very interesting topic and a very interesting thing to see with the handling of these cars this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's whoever wins this thing, it's going to be a handful. I've got to.
Oh yeah.
If I wanted to, right now, go out on a limb and pick a winner for Monaco, right, and go kind of out of the box, I would say this is not a big power track, and I really want to say advantage Lewis Hamilton. Right. Mm-hmm. And he gets his no.
I think it's going to go the opposite way because the track is so uneven. They're going to have to run the car higher ride heights, which you've seen in the first few races of the year when they were way off the pace. The only reason they were reasonably competitive at Spain is because they were able to lower the ride heights a little bit and generate more grip through that method, rather than actually purely understanding what gives them grip. And because Barcelona is a relatively smooth circuit, they're able to do that. I think Monaco is actually going to go in the opposite direction for Mercedes, and I think they'll be worse than they were at Spain.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know a lot more about that than I do, so I'll have to go with you. But I'm still going to pick Hamilton, just so you can tell me I was wrong when we get together again in a week. But so who you like? You like Max? You like Charles?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those two, but it could again be interesting. You could be, you could see Sainz up there. He banishes some of the demons he's had in the last few races, and you never know. That could be pretty spectacular.
Monaco has produced some surprise winners in the past. Yeah. It sure has. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look no further than Jarno Trulli.
Ricardo Patrese in '82. That was the racer.
Olivier Panis.
Yeah.
For all we know, Derek Daly might have been a Williams winner in Monaco. Had the car and broke down at the end when
Yep,
nobody wanted to win it.
Yeah, that's the race nobody wanted to win. I still remember that race. Matter of fact, a couple of years ago, I wrote a whole article just about that race, the race. But I just still remember James Hunt, on the radio or in the broadcast booth for BBC, saying, because we're all patiently awaiting the start finish line for a winner, but we don't seem to be getting one. That was
Derek Daly, Andrea DeChesteris. Imagine either one of those winning that one.
Sure, yeah, DeChesteris. They used to call him DeCrasherus. You know what I mean? I always remember the 81 season. That's where McLaren first introduced a carbon fiber car, the MP4, and John Watson proved that car could be a winner, and DeChesteris proved again and again and again that chassis was safe in a crash.
He certainly did.
Yeah. But so Louise, who do you like? Who do you like for Monaco this week in this era, not in the 80s?
Charles has already been the car, whether or not it been the car already at Monaco. So all signs says it's going to get better for him. So I'm going with Leclerc.
Okay, so Leclerc, same guy who crashed Niki Lauda's car at Monaco. All right, gotcha.
That wasn't his fault. The brake rotor did explode on him.
Yes.
Yeah, we know. But he's already got his mulligan out. So Sainz...
yeah, he's got his mulligan out of the way. Good point.
So Sainz say he'll probably have a career race down there.
And he needs it because he's lost the points lead by a small amount. The DNF really, dropped him back. It's got Max now in control of this thing. So, yeah, a bounce back for Charles would be fantastic. All right, so let's talk about your trip this weekend, Louise. You were down in Texas for the All-Star race where we saw, a little bit of everything. We saw a little bit of bump and bang. We saw some scary incidents. And we saw a little controversy. And the race that we thought was over that wasn't. So let me just turn it over to you and let you kind of break down this multi-stage All-Star extravaganza.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's first of all remember when I explained what I initially thought was everything about the All-Star format that was so mind-boggling that I had to read it on my phone.
Yes, my head still hurts from listening to that. So
my head hurts to the fact that I don't think anybody realized that apparently if the caution comes out during the white flag lap in the All-Star race, the race is not over. So yeah, ARCA style rules were if the caution comes out, it has to end green. It must end under green. It cannot end. Well, they got one attempt, but that's what ultimately happened. But before we talk about the finish, we want to talk about what happened during the race. First of all, it appeared it was going to be Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain, who I thought were the guys to beat. This is the type of racing that would suit both of those guys' style. Busch had led them all. Then he had a cut tire, which he wasn't aware of, that the tire went down, no warning, no sign, no nothing. Was completely off the pace. What I was going for, and from a photographer's point of view, get a pan shot of Kyle Busch leading the field. But then I noticed he was going well off the pace, and cars were going by. I was thinking, oh, Jesus, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. And then, boom, Chastain destroyed the left side of Kyle Busch. Chastain, who already had some drama this weekend because he had some cramps that he needed some IV taken care of his body after the truck race because he was dehydrated. He didn't really fully prepare to be in top shape for a truck race. And it ultimately kind of bit him that he realized that he should have taken it more serious than he did. So Chastain had a wild ride because of Chastain got his car up in the air, kept it from going end over end. But out of nowhere, because Chase Elliott was trying to avoid the red, he got drilled by Chastain, so that eliminated Chase Elliott. So talking about 3 quality cars out. The hottest driver in the sport right now, the most aggressive driver in the sport, and then the guy who has racked up the most amount of points in the regular season thus to date. So you took out 3 caliber rides and a wild wreck and brought out the first All-Star red flag since 2013 at Charlotte due to rain when that happened. And then as the race went by, it pretty much became a game of strategy. Who's going to stop Penske trio of Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, and Joey No, not Brad Keselowski. Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano. And then as the race went by, you see Blaney checked out. He pretty much checked out. He had that race in the bag. And then a little wobble, a little hiccup on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and going on the backstretch warranted a caution just as Blaney was 300 feet from taking the checker flag. They had the checker flag, and then the flagman pulled it back, and then they waved the yellow flag. Because of the premature caution, as Scott Miller literally said to the press, Blaney thought he won, taking down the window net, and then because the race wasn't over, he was facing a huge dilemma where he's got to fix the window net, otherwise he had to be given the black flag. They gave Blaney an opportunity, and then their words that they noticed that once he was warming up the tires going to green, they thought the window net was properly secured. Depending who you ask, the window net may have not been secured, but also they felt like had they brought Blaney to fix it, keep his spot, it was deemed as out of character for NASCAR. I'm thinking out of character for a points race. I mean, NASCAR no straight sure. Yeah,
it's already out of character to not end the race when it should have ended.
Yeah, NASCAR is out of character. You want to talk about out of character? 2015 Talladega, when Dale Jr. probably should have won if the rules stood, and if they went with their gut. Instead, they changed it on the fly, and Logano ultimately won that one and gave Harvick the opportunity to do what he did, quote unquote, depending who you ask. So once they deemed Blaney's safety net was safely attached, Blaney had to hold off Denny Hamlin, who was irate. I mean, Hamlin and irate go hand in hand. He was very vocal about it, that they should have followed the rules in his eyes. And then Hamlin has been on a huge tirade, justified or not, depending who you ask again. And it's just led to many people say, oh, why are we wasting our time here at Texas running the All-Star race? Why are we wasting our time having an All-Star race to begin with? It's lost its value. I'm in the boat where you could still have it, but you just probably just one exhibition race rather than two, because the clash is no longer even about who's good in qualifying. They just invited everybody who are charter teams. That's it. In a clash for the All-Star race, it was 2/3 of the field that ran the All-Star race that have charters, and only charter teams competed. There were no extra entries like your NY Racing, the Money Team, or Carl Long. But Blaney won in controversial fashion. Just a million. First win with his crew chief Jonathan Hassler, albeit a non-points race, but and as for me covering the races this season, it's 5 for 5 for Team Penske.
Yeah, you're their good luck charm, yeah. But the Penske cars looked really strong at Texas, all three of them, like you said.
Yeah, albeit Logano does have a point that, they still feel like they need to find some more pace, because he felt like guys like Kyle Busch and Russ Chastain were the guys to beat, which I can understand his viewpoint. They were able to get the strategy right, and with Logano, the big crew got the job done to put him in the first couple rows. $100,000 richer for having the fastest pit stop.
There you go.
Yeah. I think just overall, it was just a messy ordeal, not just with the race. There was some slight confusion about the pit stop competition, what it entails. Like apparently the 10-second was not 10 seconds, and vice versa. It was just, from a photographer point of view, it wasn't the greatest in that regard, because I was curious what they were going to do about it. And in that one, it was Kyle Busch over Ryan Blaney for who will be on the pole for the All-Star race. It's just it's pretty clear. Everybody knows this is the worst race of the year with the current car that we've had to date. Not sure if
plus there's just too many gimmicks. You know what I mean?
Too many gimmicks, confusing gimmicks.
All these pit stop competitions in the middle of qualifying, and
they didn't factor in overtime during stages, not in the final, during stages. So instead of 125, it was 140 last week, because a couple of the stages went into overtime.
Yeah, just like I say, it gets when it gets too hard to follow, right? And then you have too much controversy. They just need to simplify the thing, right? Richard and I were talking off the air earlier that again, this is historically, a race that would be held at Charlotte, where everybody would be there closer to their home base for 2 weeks. Now we've added an extra travel weekend for the teams, and and for what? And the race is not even on network TV; it's on Fox One, right? So,
Yep.
Yeah, is what it is. But Ryan Blaney got some money in the bank, and Denny Hamlin has fodder for his Twitter, I guess. So,
Yeah. All hands on deck for the 600 for those Cup guys, which will be another ultimate test about tires, fuel, and how this car would do. But I think some people are just hoping it's a lot better in terms of the quality of racing. But we'll have to find out in a couple of days.
All right, so let's talk about the 600 then, since we've just got about 5 or 6 minutes left. So who do you like? Who do you like for the 600? We're talking Charlotte. We're talking probably the Toyota guys are going to be strong. Obviously the Chevys, the Hendrick cars are going to be good. Penske's coming off decent momentum from the All-Star race. So, who do you like, Louise?
Can't go wrong with Kyle Busch, honestly.
This is quite true. Yeah, that guy can win anywhere. So, but yeah. So
this is coming from the guy who thought was going to go winless this season. So,
yeah, I don't even know who to go with. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if Blaney goes back to back, wins the All-Star, and then wins at Charlotte. I'm also really kind of Austin Cindric. You know what I mean? If he were to win the 2 majors in the 1 year, we still recall he won the Daytona 500 earlier this year, and he really hasn't been much of a factor since then. But he looked pretty solid at Texas, and Texas got a very similar profile to Charlotte. So I just kind of casually wonder if Austin Cindric's got a really good shot there as well, just because that would be just a great story. Somebody winning 2 majors in essentially their rookie season.
Yeah, it's just interesting how he has set the world on fire after winning the 500. He's going through the rookie jitters, which naturally every driver goes through it, but he's been hit with it quite a lot. So he just needs some bit of confidence, and I think having a pretty good All-Star effort may change it a bit, because he's going to have to get a good run going in case if we have more than 16 winners. Remember, we already have 11.
Yeah, that we do.
So a strong run is key for guys like him and Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson as well.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin's another guy that Martin Truex, another guy who's been a little low key this year, but he's when it comes to these sort of profile tracks, he was the king of those back in 2017. Does he still have that magic? Truex seems to be kind of almost fading into the background compared to what else is going on, but I think he's still a pretty solid guy, and he's got as good a shot as anybody else. And of course you can't count out any of them Hendricks cars between Bowman and Byron, Elliott and Larson. Those guys have been rock solid all year long. So this is with the length of 600 miles, it's really anybody's race.
Yeah, huge points there. Remember, this is 4 segments, unlike we were used to the traditional 3. So you would get, if I recall, 70 maximum championship points. If you win all 4 stages, you get the max amount of points. So yeah, if you have a strong night, a real strong night, you can rack up 70 points, the most you can get in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot on the line here. Just like the guys going to Indianapolis, we got double points for those guys there. So of course Formula One, same amount of points for Monaco. We haven't gotten that gimmick in. We haven't got that gimmick in Formula One yet, but
we did, didn't we? We did have it in Abu Dhabi a few years ago, I think.
Yes. Plus, we've
That lasted
also
one season.
Yeah, we've also done the thing with the points for the sprint races as well. Correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I figured that's what you were alluding to, the sprint race. So double points in Formula One, and sprint race is whatever at this point. Just don't oversaturate it.
Yep.
Yep. Again, yeah. So, all right. So we're out of time. So there's about a couple minutes. You guys can, if each of you wants to just drop a final thought for either for last week or for a preview next week.
On some IndyCar news we didn't discuss, apparently Alexander Rossi has a new contract for next year, but he hasn't said where it is yet.
Yeah, the hot rumors, McLaren. That's one of the worst kept secrets in the world. But yeah, I again, I've got to look at Montoya not performing in the third McLaren car, and wonder if that's a victim of them expanding before they're really ready to. But you never know. I guess it depends on who they hire and who they bring along. I think McLaren has a lot of resource to be very, very strong as a 3-car team. And Rossi desperately needs something different in his life. You know what I mean? It's whatever is going on with Andretti is no longer working. And it's just, it seemed to be frustration after frustration for this poor guy, who I still believe has a lot of potential and a lot of great years left. So I think change of scenery will do him well. And again, the McLaren team is, nothing to shake a stick at. Those guys, Warden and Felix have been pretty strong in every race.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Luis, your final thought, sir.
As for me, I think honestly, NASCAR, as much as decent momentum they've had, they certainly have lost it in a matter of a few days that we dealt with. And I think it'd be curious to see how the 600 numbers will reflect, because this is Sunday is supposed to be the ultimate favorite day of the year. And while I'm not going to be fully cherishing the favorite day of the year this year, I'm just more or less curious how the 600 is going to unravel. And on top of that, how much if attrition is going to be a factor in the 500. And as far as Monaco, I've already discussed it. I think all signs say Leclerc will finally break through.
Carlos Sainz says Leclerc will break through.
All signs say.
Yeah, you said all signs.
Yeah.
And Carlos is the signs. So,
boy.
My little pun for the day. All signs said.
I'm surprised you didn't got it the first time when I said all signs said, like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. Carlos' entire family says Leclerc's going to win. So, all right. Well, good night, guys. I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network. I want to thank iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Podcasts. I want to thank Dan Blay Racing Art and Mark Dill and legend of the first super speedway. I want to thank you, Richard. I want to thank you, Louise. But most of all, I want to thank you folks that listen to us. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy the races, and we'll join you again in a week. Until then, good night.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com.
Enter website, enter website, enter website, enter website.